complex to meet the training and capacity building requirements of staff of government departments, undertaking, and other public functionalities. Her unique journey has given her many awards from organizations like the UNICEF, Times of India, and Early Childhood Association. It's a privilege to have you here, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I welcome you on this session, and I'm so glad that we are going to talk about one of the important and uh, needed topic, that is stories as pedagogy. Are you all able to see the slideshow?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, we all have teachers here, and teachers and stories, I feel there is a strong connection. When we talk about stories as pedagogy, we all have been hearing about stories, and we have actually never thought about the aspect in which how this can be used as pedagogies. Can you relate to this? Have you thought about using stories as pedagogy? You can probably put it in the chat box. Yes. So stories have been a very, very important part of our lives. If you actually see from our childhood, we have been listening to stories and stories, and we remember all of them. And then in the second part of our life, we have shared our stories with the parents, didn't we? So stories have become an integral part of our life. But how do we take them into the classrooms? And why do we take them into the classrooms? And how does it think? We normally think of stories only as a tool for entertainment. We have actually not thought about stories as a tool to teach. So how do we use that, and why do we have to use that, and how effective it can be as a pedagogical tool is what we are going to achieve through this session today. So, what's a story? Story is a description of an imaginary or real people and events which is written and told in order to entertain. So, it is actually used in order to entertain. But we want to use it as a pedagogical tool. And what is pedagogy? Pedagogy is a method and practice of teaching. Now, these two seems to be very, very two different ends, two different poles in a classroom, where we are talking about entertainment and when we are talking about teaching practices. But somewhere in today's classroom, especially the one which we are dealing with, which are online classes, we need to be more concerned about, we need to be more mindful about keeping our classes engaged, isn't it? So it's not just about entertainment, or it's not just about learning outcome or syllabus completion, but we also have to keep our children entertained. And that too through this screen that we have now. So somewhere here, stories as pedagogy will fit well. Stories as pedagogy will fit well because if you actually go back and think, something that we all remember, something which we all remember very clearly are stories. If we watch a movie once, are we not able to say the beginning and the end? Yes, we will be. If we go back to our childhood, aren't the stories that we can repeat today?
Yeah.
So anything which are taken in the format of a story is something that can be remembered well. And if you actually create a story around your topic of teaching in a way that it has a good beginning, good start, and you try to put it like that, your child will be engaged because he's trying to think and contemplate about the next step which is coming in. And that is where you will not have a problem as a teacher to grab the attention of your children. And that is why it's very, very necessary that we start using this pedagogical tool in our classrooms to create an experience out of it. What do I mean by experiencing stories? Storytelling, storytelling is one part of the story, to be used as a pedagogical tool. But when you make your children experience the story, do you understand what I mean by experiencing a story? When we watch a movie, don't we feel sad when somebody dies in that movie? Don't we feel sad when two people are, separated from each other? Don't you feel happy when they achieve something in the movie? Why does that happen? Why do we start relating ourselves to movies? Why do we start relating ourselves to the story that the person is going through? That is called experiencing the story. So when you start using stories as pedagogical tool in your classroom, you need to build the story up in a way that you start making your children experience the story. And when they experience, that is where they will remember that content really, really well. One of the important aspects of using this as a pedagogical tool is, if you go back and think, just take a 30-second, 10-second gap and think. Just think the experience that you remember, the most recent experience that each one of you remember. It will certainly be an experience which is a good experience emotionally or a bad experience emotionally. So emotions is something, when we go through that, we remember that properly. So when you use stories as a pedagogical tool and make your children experience that learning, they will be able to remember that content very, very clearly. So that is why stories as pedagogical tool can be used effectively in classes and make your children experience that content which shall be easily remembered or retained and understood by them. Now let's get into the why. Whenever anything comes to me, and I always ask myself what, why, and how. So let's get to the why. Why should we use stories as pedagogy, and why does it have this kind of an impact in engaging children? Let's understand some brain facts. When I tell you something, if there is a simple presentation where I just put some words there and you're relating to only the words which are there, what will happen is only the language part of your brain starts processing the information, which is the broncas area and the vernix area of the brain. So when I'm telling you something, when there is a class and I'm telling you the content or the knowledge, when I'm sharing the knowledge with you, only only the language part of your brain will process it. But when I make you experience that, when I make you go through the experience, then the other parts of your brain, that is the sensory cortex, will get activated. Just if you can close your eyes and start imagining that you are in an environment where you can see lot of plants, water. Can you do that? Can you start imagining? Now just move your hand and try to touch some of the leaves which you can see around. Can you now put your hands in some water? Can you swirl through it? How do you feel? How do you feel? For a second, won't you start feeling it? So that's what happens with children. When we use stories in the classroom and make them experience the sensory context of their cortex of their brain, apart from their language, starts making them feel or go through that experience. And not just that. When I'm telling you a story, when I'm telling I would stop using the word story here and I will start using the word your lesson or your content that you're teaching, your subject. When I start teaching you a subject, for example, if I'm teaching you a digestive system, let's not talk only from the perspective of early years. If I take it for middle and higher, and I'm telling you that you are teaching them digestive system. Now, when you're teaching them digestive system and turn it around into a story, and then you're saying that the food goes like this and the digestion happens. So I'll just tell you in the later part of this session how to make a story around these things. So when you make them experience, suddenly you say that it jumps into the stomach and it starts rotating and revolving. So what happens? Even the child starts doing that physically. So that is where, when you start showing, start using these kind of a vocabulary in your stories, they will their motor context of the brain also gets activated. So, they're sitting at one place, they're watching their screen, they're listening to your subject, and at the same time, they're actually going through this entire process. They're going through the sensorial experience, they're going through the motor experience. So you are able to navigate them physically and mentally across the globe. So that is the power that it will have. And certainly when there are more there are more parts of the brain that gets activated. As I told you, in the first part, it is only language. The language is being processed. But when you make them experience the story, the sensory context, the motor context, all of those get activated in the brain, and the retention of the content that you're teaching becomes very, very easy. Now, how does this happen? Now, how does this happen? This is how it will happen. There is a process called neural coupling. What happens here is when you start watching a story. See, when you use a when you start watching a story, or when you start listening a story, or when you start listening to that subject in the format of storytelling, then our brain starts to create a similar kind of an experience within our own brain. That is exactly the reason why we start feeling the same way the character in that story will be feeling. And that is called neural coupling. And similar kind of experience happens in mirroring. And then there is when there is a very good experience, when there is an achievement, or when they have arrived or achieved something in the story that you are saying, then they feel very happy and the dopamine gush increases. That is why when you watch a good serial, or when you watch or listen to a very good movie, you start feeling good about it. Why do you start feeling good soon after you just listen, when you have not even experienced it yourself? That is because of the hormones that are released in your body. So you can, and then the cortex activity, which I told you, the sensory and the motor cortex. So these are the things which can happen, which start happening in your brain when you start listening to a story. And today, towards the end of the session, I will show you how to actually imbibe your subject or your lesson that you're teaching into the format of a storytelling. That I will tell you towards the end. So now you start thinking about this. When somebody is actually using only a PowerPoint presentation without the content of, if now that you are conducting the online classes, you just say the words or you just explain the content to children. So what will happen when we see the content which is written on the screen in the slides? That we will first read it ourselves or listen to it, and we will process it in our own way. We will be processing it in our own way and experiencing it in our own ways. Maybe the speaker is wanting to say something, or he has a different ideology of using that particular word. They have a different context in which they are using that particular word. But we will be using the context, we will be using that word in a different context when we are talking about it, or we are processing that information that we hear. So that is the difference. Now, when you're telling them a story, so you will be also adding those emotions to it. So you're not just using the words, and you're not giving that opportunity there. So they also process, and they come to the same level of understanding as that of the teacher through the process of neural coupling or mirroring. As in, if I want to explain them the experience or the process of digestive system, as I was saying, so you may be saying it from the perspective of letting them know about the digestive system, but they may be processing it from a different perspective, or from some of the experience that they've gone through. So that is the difference when you use only the content or knowledge based teaching, where you use only words. But when you use it as a story where they experience the content, then their understanding becomes different, because they will be on the same page as that of a teacher. And that is the impact of using this kind of a pedagogy, this kind of a pedagogical tool in teaching. This is a very, very rare aspect or rare idea that we want to inculcate. We've always seen stories, as I told you before, as only a medium of entertainment or only as a medium to engage younger children. But if you start using these stories even for higher grade children, and how is that? I'm going to teach you a little later. Then then the amount of learning that your children will go through will be very very different. And certainly, as Meenakshi ma'am was sharing the assessment part, that also can be taken through storytelling. So we'll go to that part. So now you understood what is the impact of stories when you tell them, how your brain processes the story. So it's not just language part of your brain that gets activated, but because of neural coupling, mirroring, you start feeling it, and there is a good hormone release in your body. You get de-stressed, and the cortex activity happens, which is the sensory and the motor cortex. Now, if we talk about children in early years are not just growing but are also developing. This learning in early years should not only consider the learning outcome opportunities, but they also should be able to achieve the developmentally appropriate practices or activities which gives children opportunity to develop. I suggest that we do not just restrict it to children in early years, but if you are dealing with children in middle years and higher grades also, you can think about distributing your storytelling. Story as pedagogy is one part, as in the tool which I am saying. And the second part is how well you wind it up by giving them opportunities for the different domains of development. And why we need to do that is something that we'll understand as we go to the stages of our presentation. So, stories for development. There are four important domains of development in children: language, cognitive, physical, and social emotional. When you talk about language development, it is in the series of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. You know that out of these LSRW, two are input and two are output. So which are the input, which are the two input in LSRW? Listening, speaking, reading, writing. Can you tell me? Which are the input skills to get the output? Can you guess?
Listening.
What
Language.
is the input? I mean,
Listening.
in listening, speaking, reading, writing, two of them are the input. That we need to give to children, and two of them are output. That is what we will get if we give that to children.
Language and social emotional.
1 second. Let me just open the chat box. Listening and reading, eyes and ears. Listening and reading. Okay, you are right. When we give listening of that many hours of a language to children, they start speaking. And when they give them reading, they start writing. So I always see that our education system is we are obsessed about speaking and writing in English or any particular language. So when we want that part of our children to, uh, to improvise, then we need to give them more opportunities to listen and read. If they listen to that language, they'll be able to speak. If they read, they'll be able to write. That's about language development. And then we come to cognitive development. Cognitive is about thinking, logical thinking, reasoning. So when we use stories as pedagogical tool for children, then we understand that they start reasoning. If I'm telling you a story, and if I stop in between and I say, what do you think will happen to this after this? They start thinking, they start reasoning. They'll give you suggestions on that. So that gives, when we use that as stories, and we give them the opportunity to think after by stopping at one point. So that will give them opportunity for cognitive development or for cognition or involving their thinking and reasoning skills. For example, you're teaching your children the simple process of photosynthesis. And then you say that if this happens and you stop after a process, and then you say, what do you think will happen after this? So they'll start guessing. So in the process of guessing, they'll be thinking and reasoning. That is how the cognition can be taken into consideration when you're using stories. Now, language is for sure, which can be covered under stories that we all know. Till now, we only thought that only language is one thing that can be taught through stories by using the appropriate words that we want. But cognition can also happen. But here, the style should be that you should, bring it to a level and then leave it for them to think and give you an answer. So they'll try to reason, they'll try to think, and they'll start giving you an answer. They may guess, they may relate to their own experiences. So that is a way in which stories as pedagogical tool can allow them or give them an opportunity to think and reason. That is cognition. Now, if you come to physical, here again, what you can do is, as I was taking the example of photosynthesis. So once you finish the story, you can actually ask them, they can become a plant and they can start telling you what happened. You can actually make them say, this is my leaf, this is my stem, and this is my flower, or this is my fruit. So when these kind of things, when they're using their own body and then they try to explain the process, there is an opportunity for physical development. So you are telling them the story at the same time they are trying to imagine themselves as a plant. Or that's how you can make the story around. Or you can ask them to go around their house and go around that area and see what kind of plants are available. So it does give them the opportunity for physical development. Now, when you talk about socio-emotional development, for an obvious reason, when you put little values and emotion in your story to the character, when you make the character go through those social or emotional experiences, you will also give them opportunity for socio-emotional development. Before going deep into these, so now I want you to very clearly understand that what is story. A story has a beginning, has a plot, and has an end, and it has a character. And then you have your pedagogical, and we have to use that as a pedagogy. Now, when we are using it as a pedagogy, we have to inculcate the 4 developmental domains into it. As in the lesson plan, we have to give them the opportunity. How? Now I want to skip some slides and take you to make a story. Can you all come back with a paper and pen? Or I assume you already have it with you. Do you all have your papers and pens with you? Now write this. When you have to use stories as pedagogy, how do you start? First, you write down, you all being teachers, and I'm sure you all must be teaching different ages and different subjects. Just pick up, one subject,
முன்னாடி
pick up,
பக்கம் பின்னாடி
pick up
பக்கம்
one topic, pick up one topic that you teach. One of you or two of you, some of you can also share the topics in the comment box. Just pick up any topic, be it a math topic or a language, English language topic, or a science or a social, any topic. Just pick up a topic and write down the topic. Okay, I get 2 topics here. One topic is simple interest and one topic is adverb. Area and parameters. Okay. Environmental pollution. Environmental pollution, we will take environmental pollution. I will be taking an example of environmental pollution here. Okay. Now you have your topics with you. Now in your topic, think of a character. Bring a character. As in, if you have your topic is environmental pollution, bring one character here. The character can be a plant going through it. A character can be something which gets affected through that environment, which gets badly impacted through environmental pollution. It can be a fish in the water. So just pick up that character. You have to find a character in your topic. Now for adverbs. What is adverb? Adverb is something that describes a verb, right? So think of a character. So maybe I'm a verb and then I go through the story and then that's how I'll explain the adverb. So verb is the character when you're teaching them adverb. Now in simple interest, you can create a character like, you know the story problems, right? In simple interest, you can just pick up any name and then he goes through a process where he has to calculate this simple interest. And one of the topic given here is solar system. So you can pick the character of the sun. So have you written your characters? Now write your character. Now you have understood how you should write a character from your topic. Now write a character. Now after writing the character, write the problem. What is the problem? The problem is your topic. As in when I told that your topic was what was the pollution. Pollution was your topic, right? Environmental pollution. In that I said take something which got affected by pollution. Something like how fishes are affected by water pollution. Take one particular pollution. Also, if you fish is your character, then your problem is environmental pollution. If verb is your character, when you're teaching adverbs, if verb is your character, then the problem is that he has to find what is an adverb, right? You need to teach them what is an adverb. So that is the character. In states of matter, you can take water as the character, and then your problem is how many states of matter are there. So write the character now, write the problem. The problem is the topic that you have to teach. Did you write the character? Did you write the problem? I don't mind if you all switch on your video. I know we are 500 of us attending this session, but you can actually switch on your cameras and nod if you have done it. I can see one topic here, which is direct and indirect speech. So in that, what you can do is you can actually tell a story and then later on make them repeat it to their grandmother and grandfather and call it an indirect speech. You here can also have an opportunity to give them so now we will stop giving me topics, and what you can do is you write the character and you write the problem. Character, problem is your topic. Whatever topic you're teaching is your problem. Character is something that is affected by that problem. So which you have to bring in. You have to create a character. Did you do that? Yes? Could you find a character? Could you find the problem? Could you write that? Yes, no. You can nod. Now you have to start knitting a story around. You know, me being an early childhood educator, I would always consider learning outcomes which can be taught to children. So, you know, for me, if, for example, I will give you an example here. I have picked up alphabet A. I have picked up the most difficult learning outcome, which you can say. Letters seems to be a very dry and difficult topic to be taught with stories as pedagogy. So I will say that my character is alphabet A. A himself is a character. And what I had to teach is, I had to teach my children what is the phonic sound and name of the alphabet A. That was my topic. In today's topic, I had to teach the name and the sound of alphabet A. So what am I going to do? Now I will knit a story around alphabet A. I will say that alphabet A was going, you know, from his house, he was going through the forest, and he lost his way while coming back from the forest. He lost his way, and he's asking people about it. So, you know, think about that way. I want them to ask questions where they start asking. So the character will be alphabet A, and he doesn't know his name, or he's forgotten his name. He's gone to the forest for a nature walk, and he's forgotten something, or he fell down and he's forgotten everything. Now he's asking everybody, do you know what's my name? Do you know who I am? So now every time he's asking that, I will also ask my children. I am A. I am the character. When I'm telling the story to my children, I am the character. So I will keep asking my children. I will keep asking my students, What's my name? Do you know me? So they will start guessing, they will start thinking on their own, they will start creating that knowledge. One of them may say, or none of them may say, or all of them may say. So that is how, you say, no, 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 it is right. No, I think it is right. What do you say? So that is how you need to build it up. That is the plot of the story. You have to create a plot. Now, after you create a plot, how do you share the story? I mean, how do you tell this to your students? First is the lesson plan. In the lesson plan, you need to have a character. You need to have a problem, which is your syllabus or the topic's name. You need to have a plot. Once you have the plot, then you will either share it through storytelling, through role play. You can do it with them. If it's a real physical classroom scenario, you can use puppetry.
Everyone, edla vanche. Everyone could.
Or you can use a small, you can make a face mask. You can use hand puppets. You can use finger puppets. This can be a, I can just make an A as a character. And I can say that A goes to the forest and he is fell down like this and this like that. So this is how, when you are making your children discover knowledge, discover their own content. So when you give a character, when you give a plot, you give pauses at the right time, you give some information and you don't give some information. And then make them guess, make them tell you things on their own. When they start doing this, they are reasoning, their cognition is being used. They start thinking about it. And then, and that way of experiencing or taking the learning experience, that way of experiencing the learning will have a huge and a long-term impact on the way they will retain that knowledge with them. Now here, when I talk about the 4 domains, the first domain was language. So the words which I want that, I should know the vocabulary, the age that I'm dealing with. Accordingly, I can use that kind of a language, those vocabularies. So that is about language development. I will say few things and I will stop and I will allow the child to say. So then again, language development comes in. Then again, you talk about the second developmental domain, that is cognition. As I told you, you stop in between. You suddenly stop at certain areas and you allow them to guess. So they will start thinking and reasoning. So that will be the second aspect. Now the third aspect is physical. In physical, you will say that A was marching in the forest and he suddenly stopped. He fell down. And then, when you actually make A do all those things, your children may also start experiencing that. So that is the physical development. And then when you come to the socio-emotional, he will be lost. He was sad. He forgot his name. He doesn't know how to go back home. So they'll start feeling it. And then help, when he's asking people to help him to reach back home. So social development. So when you're knitting the plot, you have to take care that one or two of the developmental aspects or domains are touched upon. So you need to have a character, which can be from the topic that you're taking, and your topic itself will be the problem. And then when you're creating the plot, you have to touch all the domains. And then you have to, after that is your lesson plan. And then you have to present. When you're presenting, you can use hand puppets, you can use real objects, as in you can actually bring an apple and say that he is trying to find out how he is spelled. And then, make him go through different people. Apple went to orange and he started asking. Okay, I can see someone saying that my story on photosynthesis is ready. How I wish that I could have allowed you people to present your stories here. Exactly, I can see one more person sharing that simple interest, character is interest. So interest is your character, money added to our saving, plot going to different banks to see which bank is providing good interest. See, see the way you have changed your mindset now. Now, if this is the way you're going to teach, if your one session is going to be like this, where you have the character, you have the problem, you have given them the plot, and then you share a story. So when you have the online class, you share the story like this. And after the class, you tell them, now interest is your character, interest is coming to your house. I'm going to send you a worksheet, and you need to find out the simple. You need to find out by solving that. You need to do this bank gave this thing, this bank gave that thing, and then you need to find out. the different solutions to it. So that will be a very different way in which children will start processing the knowledge. Because till yesterday, you were teaching them from the aspect that I know everything, I know the knowledge, and I'm going to give you the knowledge. But today, the way you are teaching is, this is little knowledge I have. Can you add some more knowledge to it? And together, can we solve one problem? So you're not just giving them knowledge, but you're also giving them opportunity to solve a problem. And this kind of a learning is something that will not be restricted to their content knowledge or not be restricted to their textbook, but it will also be useful in their real lives. When tomorrow somebody will talk about interest, they will be able to sit back and they don't need to refer to that, though they don't need to refer to their textbooks for that. So that kind of a learning will come, and just imagine the assessment opportunities that you get here. And imagine the interest level of children when they are teaching such things. Please be sure that stories are not the pedagogical tool only for children in early years. Children in early years, yes, it is very, very useful, and if it is used in the right way. Many a times we use stories only to teach moral values to children, don't we? Or if we want to share one, moral values or habits to children. How many times have we thought about using stories to teach alphabets in early years, or numbers, or go to operational concepts that you're talking about, additional, subtraction, multiplication, and division, or concepts in science like the digestive system. The character, if you're teaching them digestive system, you can say the food that I am eating is the character. The problem is, how will I get digested? And then I create a plot that I enter the mouth and this is what has happened to me. Then I went through a tunnel. It was all dark. I was scared. And then I went into an open area. Suddenly I fell into that open big area. And when I fell into that area, there was a gush of water or liquids from all sides. They were trying to help me decode. They were trying to help me. They made me softer. Somebody told me those are called digestive enzymes. Then from there, I went into another tunnel. But this time, this tunnel was not straight, but it was all in different, it was all clogged around. So this way, the food is the character and is going through the entire digestive system. Imagine that. This is the story. And now when you're teaching this, after telling them the story, you can show them the picture of the digestive system and ask them the question. If your character was food, then tell me, how is the food going through where do you think, what do you think was the dark tunnel in the story? He will start imagining, looking at the digestive system and telling you. What do you think? Where do you think the enzymes or what were the fluids that came around the food, which softened it? So they will start looking at the picture of the digestive system and telling your story. Then after you finish your session, you can ask your children, give that picture as a reference and tell them, you write the process of digestive system now. Do you think they will have a problem? Do you think they'll have a problem writing the process? Instead, the process that we normally follow is, we show them the picture and tell them what happens. But instead of telling them what happens, what we are doing is, we are telling them what happens, but here you are the food, the character is the food, and you are telling them what the character has gone through. And then after telling them, you will show them the picture of the digestive system and ask them to guess. After that, you will give the picture of the digestive system to children and ask them to imagine and write what has happened. Now imagine the understanding of the digestive system. Imagine the understanding of digestive system with children. Do you think assessment is going to be a problem here? Do you think their understanding of the concept will be a problem here? And then what you can do, you can follow it up by asking them to create a story. Now they will come back to you saying that instead of this food, ma'am, if this food would have gone into the same system, what would have happened? Now ask them to do it now. The first time, maybe it was a rice, a rice ball that he had. The second time, he can have some fruit, and then he goes through the entire process again. And you can also talk about safety measures, eating certain things which they're not supposed to eat. You can connect it to healthy eating, why they should not eat certain things, why they have an impact. The ready-made food that we are giving to children, even that you can start adding here. because those food don't go through the digestive system, and that is they directly get absorbed into your body, and you get a sudden slurge of energy in the form of high rays of sugar and salt when you eat the ready made food. So this way they will be able to figure out why you are asking them to eat the home cooked food, and what is the importance of using the digestive system. And if you start eating all ready made or junk food, how will that badly impact your body? They will be able to come out. So this is how you can have your chapter. One, tell them a story. Second, they will tell you a story. And then third, you will give them bigger challenges. As in, you will change the food. If you eat plastic, what will happen? If you eat, if you eat this, what will happen? If you eat that, what will happen? Imagine the learning which you can do this way. This way, you are not restricting their learning to the 40-minute class that you have, but you are giving them an opportunity to think, where they will be learning all through the day. That day, when they will be having their food, they'll be able to imagine, now it is going through the tunnel, it will go down, and this is going to happen. So try this. Try this. This is a very different method. It's a very unique method. Though I am an early childhood educator, I have used this in my classes with children, but I've not restricted myself to that. I have a teenage boy. I'm a mother to a teenage boy. And I have used this kind of learning pedagogical method to teach my child many different concepts, and I've seen that he has actually got that concept so clearly that I never had to teach him again. Now this, I'm talking about the most difficult topic, that we say science to teach using stories, or math to teach a story. Now when you talk about English to teach that story, I'm sure that you all know how well you can do that. When I talk about taking a Hindi chapter, I'm too sure that you know very well how to teach that as a stories as pedagogy. That's why I've not taken those topics here. Math and science is something that we feel is very difficult to be taught, or we have never imagined that to be taught as a storytelling. Even social studies, the historical stories, it's so easily connected when you teach them through stories as pedagogy. So because we are in this digital time, we are going through an online session, online classes. I think it's very important for us to make our classes engaging, and we do not restrict it only to knowledge based content. So if this kind of a format you follow, where you have a character, where you have a problem, and then you have a plot, and in the plot you have to cover the 4 domains, which is language, cognition, physical, socio-emotional, and then you make a story, and then you give it out to children. So this kind of a pedagogical tool, if we bring in our classrooms, I'm too sure that our children will be waiting to attend your session. They'll be waiting to come and listen to your story, which you will use to teach them some of the concepts which we felt were the most difficult concepts. Believe me, as a child, that was my method of decoding everything that was taught to me. I used to convert everything into a story, even angles and lines, even shapes. I have taken everything as a story. I used to create characters, and that's how I used to remember things in my, I used to process information. Until today, I follow that format. So if you do that, you try that yourself. After that, you take one session like this, and I would love to get the feedback from you, that if you have taken one session like this, what kind of a response, how did you feel about it? Because when your children are engaged, and when your children are connected with you on a same understanding level, you will also be very happy, or you will have a very accomplished experience of that session. So you will start feeling that. When your children are bored, you will get the vibes. If your children are happy and are on the same page, you'll get those vibes. So I want you to now give that back to me, where you will create a story, you will conduct the story, and you will give me a feedback. Please come back to this Facebook page of uh, of uh, of Teach-A-Thon, and please come and write your feedback after you have conducted. And I will ask the organizers to tag me, so that I read that feedback. And if you fail, if you face any challenge, when you have done that, please share your challenge also, so that we help you come out of that challenge. And together, let us bring stories into the classrooms and start using it as a pedagogical tool, so that your classrooms become engaging and your children learn the way they should. And the learning is which is happening in the classrooms, be it digital or physical, are not restricted only to subject based assessment, but become useful for them in their lives. That is, the learning that you give them should stay with them for life and should not be restricted only to the statistical data or the records that they achieve, scholastic achievement that they get in the form of marks on the paper. That only you can do by changing the way you are teaching them the same content. Try this and put the feedback on the page. I would love to see how it's happening with all of you. Any doubts? I'm open to questions. You can ask me. So with this, I would like to end my session. I do not like to make my sessions too theoretical, because I know Google is the best resource and you all are experienced teachers. You can refer to good books, but what I like to share is good ideas. And that's what I try to do through my session today. So you can unmute yourself and ask questions if you have. I would be more than happy to answer. But I would say that you will have questions once you experience it. So create a story, do it, and the challenge that you face, please come back to us and share.
Thank you so much, Kausar ma'am. Indeed, it was a wonderful journey or the experience which you took us on stories, because all these years I've been having this misconception probably that stories is only for English. And, we have been during our childhood, it would be like
Exactly.
grandmothers saying stories. But in fact, I agree with you. Those stories are embedded in our mind so much that we can take that experience easily at any point of time. And now, as you say, getting stories into our learning teaching practices, it will be surely a wonderful tool for each and every one of us. So we'll be waiting for the participants. If they have any doubts, I will leave it to the participants.
Yes.
Participants, if you have any doubts, please. Yes. Yes, we have Geeta ma'am over there.
Now I'll show you some pictures. You have to identify those pictures and you have to name.
Kindly.
Can you see which?
I'm sure they'll have more doubts when they start doing it in the classroom. So I
Yes,
would
yes.
really recommend that you send them your Facebook page and you ask them to share their experiences there. I will keep following your Facebook page to
Sure, ma'am.
help them if they have any challenges there.
Yes, sure, ma'am. We will do it. And just one announcement to all the participants. The attendance link has been shared in the chat box. Kindly fill in the details in the attendance sheet. It is a process for you for e-certificate for this session. So request every one of you to just fill in the attendance form for your e-certificates. Thank you so much. Priya ma'am? Priya ma'am? Okay.
So with this, I would like to thank IIEM Global for actually bringing a platform for teachers. Since the pandemic, we have been seeing a lot of online webinars, but I was always thinking that we have not yet brought anything for teachers. So I'm so glad that you've started with the process. I wish you keep continuing this kind of Teach-A-Thons for teachers. And this is an opportunity for all of us where we can transcend the distances. It doesn't matter, distances don't matter to us anymore. And we can actually make the best out of this opportunity by bringing the best